Imagine a world silenced. Not the quiet of a peaceful night, but a profound, unending hush where the symphony of life once played. This is our planet centuries after the Great Dying. A cataclysm, born from the sky, scoured the continents and poisoned the seas, extinguishing 99% of all living things. The sky, once a brilliant blue, is now a permanent, hazy shroud of ash, casting the world in a perpetual twilight. The air is thin, the land is barren, and the oceans are tombs. Have you ever truly experienced silence? The crash of waves was just the beginning of the ocean's song. It was a world alive with sound. The clicks and whistles of dolphins, the haunting melodies of whales, the constant, crackling static of a million tiny creatures on a thriving reef. That world is gone. Now, there is only the whisper of wind over desolate water. The vibrant chaos has been replaced by a sterile, chilling order. It's a silence so deep, so absolute. It feels like a physical presence, a weight pressing down on a world scrubbed clean of its own voice. Let's journey beneath the waves, into this new, silent world. What was once a coral metropolis, a kaleidoscope of color and movement, is now a bone-white necropolis. The intricate skeletons of the reefs stand like bleached, forgotten monuments in the unervingly clear water. We drift over vast plains of dark silt, where the colossal ribcage of a leviathan lies half-buried, its owner perhaps the last of its kind. There is no decay, no scavengers to pick the bones clean. There is only the slow, inexorable process of being entombed by sterile sediment, a fossil in the making for a future no one is left to see. This wasn't just a physical obliteration, it was a chemical one. As the atmosphere burned, the oceans became a planetary acid bath. The delicate shells of countless microscopic creatures, the very foundation of the marine food web, simply dissolved into the corrosive water. This collapse at the bottom triggered a cascade of starvation that raced all the way to the top predators. To make matters worse, the water became starved of oxygen, creating vast, anoxic dead zones where nothing but the hardiest microbes could possibly survive. The ocean didn't just become empty. It became actively hostile to the very concept of complex life. But life, as we knew it, was mostly a surface-level phenomenon, dancing in the sunlight. What about the abyss? Let's descend. Down into the eternal midnight of the deep sea, miles below the poisoned surface. Here, the pressure is immense enough to crush steel, and the temperature hovers just above freezing. This is the most remote part of our world, a realm of crushing darkness that was alien to us even when the planet was thriving. If a secret could be kept anywhere, if a survivor could hide from the apocalypse, it would be here in the cold, pressurized dark. Before humanity vanished, we left ghosts in the machine. Automated research stations, designed to operate for millennia, still dot the planet's most extreme environments. In the Challenger Deep, at the very bottom of the Mariana Trench, a lonely hydrophone continues its vigil, listening to the silence. For 200 years, its recordings were utterly predictable. The faint rumble of distant tectonic shifts, the whisper of deep currents, and nothing else. Then one day it recorded something new, something impossible. It was a sound, but not one that fit any known signature. It wasn't the sharp crack of a shifting plate or the low drone of a hydrothermal vent. It was a pulse, a slow, impossibly deep, rhythmic thump. A faint signal, yet one that carried an immense power that registered across the entire array of deep-sea sensors. Automated systems cross-referenced it against every geological and biological database ever created. The result came back every time. No match. It was the acoustic equivalent of a ghost, a signal with no identifiable source. What could it possibly be? The regularity of the beat suggests biology. Sounds, for all the world, like a heartbeat. But its scale is all wrong. The interval between pulses, the sheer energy required to propagate that sound through 11,000 meters of dense water. It implies a creature of geological size, a living thing larger than any animal that has ever or should ever exist. It is a heartbeat in an ocean that is, by all accounts, dead. This single, rhythmic sound makes no sense. So we are left with a terrifying paradox. A world we know is dead, an ocean scrubbed sterile and silent, yet from its deepest, darkest heart comes a rhythm, a steady, ancient pulse that defies all explanation. Our instruments, our logic, our understanding of biology all tell us it cannot be. But the sound is there, undeniable. The empty ocean is not as empty as we thought, and it forces us to ask the most chilling question of all. Is the ocean truly empty, or is something ancient and vast listening in the dark? While that impossible heartbeat echoes in the abyssal dark, a different story is unfolding far above it. Let's travel away from that colossal mystery and toward a different kind of extreme, a place where the planet's inner fire still rages. We're looking for oases of life in a desert of water. We find them clustered around hydrothermal vents, great volcanic chimneys on the seafloor spewing a toxic, superheated brew of minerals and chemicals straight from the Earth's mantle. In a world defined by cold silence, these are screaming furnaces of creation. This is where life made its last stand. Forget sunlight. Photosynthesis is a distant memory. Here, the only game in town is chemosynthesis. Meet the true inheritors of the Earth, extremophile bacteria. These microscopic survivors thrive in conditions that would boil, poison, and crush any life we once knew. For them, this chemical soup isn't a threat, it's a feast. They are the base of a new, incredibly lonely food web, the foundation upon which everything will be rebuilt. They are the first spark of life's second genesis. And they are not entirely alone. Clustered around these vents are ghostly white stalks of tube worms, the only complex animals to have weathered the apocalypse. They have no mouths, no stomachs, no guts. Instead, these bizarre creatures live in a symbiotic partnership with the bacteria, farming them within their own bodies. The worms provide shelter and deliver the raw chemicals from the vents, and in return, the bacteria provide all the energy they need to live. For thousands of years, this is all there is. Microscopic farmers and their strange, stationary livestock, huddled around the planet's last campfires. Time becomes meaningless in the deep. Centuries blur into millennia. The worms live and die, the bacteria bloom and fade, and the great silence of the ocean remains unbroken. Evolution, however, is never truly still. It is a relentless tinkerer, an algorithm running in the background of reality. In the thick, soupy water rich with bacteria, a new opportunity arises. A new pressure begins to select for something different. The first truly new life form in an age is about to be born not from a lineage of animals, but from the primordial ooze itself. It begins with a change in the bacteria. Some develop a sticky outer coating, causing them to clump together. At first, it's just random aggregates, but over eons, these clumps become more structured. They have an advantage. By sticking together, they create a larger surface area to absorb nutrients. Eventually, a profound leap occurs. The individual cells begin to specialize. Some focus on adhesion, others on nutrient absorption, a few on rudimentary movement. They are no longer just a clump of bacteria. They are becoming a single colonial organism. Behold the first true child of the new ocean. It is a gelatinous, shimmering sheet, a living net that can stretch for meters. It has no brain, no nerves, no heart. It is a decentralized, unthinking entity that drifts passively on the deep currents. Its surface is a matrix of specialized cells that act like a living flypaper for the microbial soup, absorbing and distributing nutrients across the entire colony. It is constantly, slowly, pulsing with a faint bioluminescence, a soft internal glow that seems to serve no purpose other than to announce its own eerie existence. There is a unique horror to this new creation. It is life stripped of all we associate with it. There is no will, no consciousness, no desire. Simply is. It grows and spreads with the mindless persistence of a mold. Its form is unsettling. A vast, drifting membrane that can sometimes resemble a ghostly shroud or a tattered veil floating through the crushing dark. It is the first sign that life is becoming complex again, but the path it's taking is an alien one. This is not a rebirth of the familiar. It is the beginning of something entirely new. And it is beginning to spread, no longer confined to the immediate vicinity of the hydrothermal vents, These living nets are now being caught by the deep-sea currents and carried out into the vast, empty ocean. They are the pioneers, the vanguard of life's reclamation project. As they drift, they graze on any lingering microbes, slowly filtering the water and leaving a trail of slightly cleaner, emptier ocean in their wake. They are becoming a resource, a new and abundant source of food floating untethered in the abyss. The New World now has its first herbivore, if you can call it that. An endless, drifting, and utterly defenseless food source is now populating the darkness. The ocean is no longer just a tomb holding the ghosts of the past. It is becoming a nursery for the future. But in the brutal arithmetic of evolution, a nursery is also a pantry. An unlocked door. A question is now hanging in the water, waiting to be answered. If this is the prey, what will the predator look like? Nature, as they say, abhors a vacuum. And in this new ocean, the silent, drifting sheets of colonial bacteria have created a vacuum of staggering proportions. They represent an enormous, untapped source of energy, a planetary-scale buffet with no one to eat it. For millennia, they have drifted unbothered, spreading through the dark like a slow-motion biological wildfire. But a dinner bell that rings for long enough will eventually summon a guest. And in the brutal logic of evolution, where there is prey, a predator is not just a possibility. It is an inevitability. The guest that arrives at this feast is not a creature born of the New World. It is a ghost from the old one. Hiding in the silt and shadows, a lineage of deep-sea crustaceans managed to survive the apocalypse. Imagine a creature like an isopod or an amphipod, a humble, armored scavenger no larger than your hand. While the world above burned and dissolved, these creatures endured, feeding on the last vestiges of falling marine snow, the final echoes of a dead ecosystem. They are relics, evolutionary holdouts from a time of giants, now relegated to picking at scraps in the dark. But the arrival of the gelatinous nets changed everything. Suddenly, there was a limitless, effortless food source. For these scavengers, it was a revolution. Natural selection began to work its relentless magic. The crustaceans that could move more efficiently between the scattered sheets ate better. Those with slightly more sensitive antennae could detect their prey from further away. And those with claws better adapted for tearing into the gelatinous matrix could feed more effectively. Generation by generation, the humble scavenger was being forged into something new. Before we see the creator, we see its creation. A new kind of violence. Our deep-sea drones begin to find the living nets in tatters. But this isn't random damage from a current or a rock. The tears are clean, precise, and systematic, as if made with a scalpel. They are patterns of consumption, not destruction. Something is not just eating the nets. It's butchering them. It's the first evidence of active predation in this new world, and it is chillingly methodical. The silent, passive ocean suddenly has a crime scene, and we are left to wonder what kind of monster leaves tracks like these. Then, we finally see it, captured in the cold, white beam of a submersible's light. Something straight from a nightmare. Descended from that simple crustacean, this creature is now a meter long, a tank of black and gray chitin. It walks across the seafloor on 4 pairs of thick, powerful legs. But it's the other limbs that draw the eye. 2 long, whip-like antennae sweep the water in front of it, tasting the chemical trails of its prey. And from its thorax sprout 2 additional sets of arms, each tipped with a nightmarish array of specialized tools. This is not a simple pincer. This is a biological toolkit. 1 pair of arms is thick and muscular, ending in serrated clamps designed for gripping and holding its gelatinous prey steady. The other pair is finer, more delicate, ending in needle-sharp, blade-like appendages that move with the precision of a surgeon's fingers. This creature doesn't bite or tear. It seizes its victim, anchors it, and then systematically slices it into manageable strips. It is the personification of cold, predatory efficiency, a being that evolved for the sole purpose of disassembly. Let's watch it hunt. It doesn't charge. It stalks. Keeping to the shadows of rock formations, it moves with a slow, deliberate grace that is terrifying in its patience. Its antennae twitch, triangulating the position of a nearby gelatinous sheet. It detects not just the chemical signature, but the faint bioelectric field the colony produces. Once it has a lock, it approaches from below, from the prey's blind spot. The attack is sudden, silent, and devastatingly precise. There is no struggle. The grappling arms anchor the sheet, and the cutting limbs begin their work, a flurry of quick, efficient slashes. The horror of this new hunter isn't its size or its strangeness, but its intelligence. This is not the blind instinct of a shark. It is the calculated problem-solving of an engineer. It uses ambush tactics. It targets the densest parts of the colony for maximum energy return. It is a monster, yes, but it is a monster born of pure, dispassionate logic. It is an alien intelligence, but one dedicated entirely to the physics of predation. It is the ocean's new apex predator, a thinking, calculating killing machine. The age of innocence is over. The slow, passive spread of life has been met with a fast, intelligent death. A new rule has been written into the fabric of this ocean. You can no longer afford to be simple, slow, and defenseless. The arrival of this hunter has thrown a wrench into the engine of evolution, starting a biological arms race. The prey must now adapt or be consumed. The fundamental question for life in the deep is no longer simply, how do we survive? But, how do we survive this? The new law of the ocean has been written in chitin and blades. A hyper-efficient hunter now stalks the abyss, a creature of cold calculation that has turned the simple act of survival into a terrifying science. For the passive, drifting life forms that came before, there is no defense. They are simply erased, sheet by sheet, from the book of life. This new predator, this crustacean engineer, has created an evolutionary dead end. To survive it, life cannot simply continue as before. It needs a new idea. The classic responses to predation are to get bigger, get tougher armor, or get faster. But what if you are a tiny, soft-bodied creature, a descendant of some forgotten zooplankton, utterly insignificant on your own? For you, none of those options are on the table. You are, individually, nothing more than a morsel, a footnote in the food chain. So how do you fight a monster? The answer is as simple as it is profound. You don't fight it alone. We begin to see a new phenomenon in the deep. Vast clouds of these tiny, krill-like organisms, gathering in numbers that defy belief. At first, they look like conventional schools, a defense mechanism of safety in numbers. But our probes quickly reveal something stranger is at play. The movement is too perfect, too synchronized. When one creature turns, a million turn in the exact same instant. There is no discernible leader, no ripple of communication passing through the group. It is as if a single intention is guiding a million bodies. This is the birth of the swarm, a true superorganism. It is a being whose body is made of countless individuals, yet whose mind is one. This isn't just a group. It is a single, cohesive entity that can change its form at will. We watch as it shifts from a diffuse, miles-long cloud into a dense, pulsing sphere, then flattens into a vast, shimmering ribbon. The individual creature is no longer the primary unit of life here. The individual has been sacrificed for the collective, its identity dissolved into the greater whole. And the question that haunts us is, what does it feel like to be a thought in a mind that isn't your own? How does it work? The secret is a language of light. Each tiny creature possesses bioluminescent organs. We witness them communicating through an incredibly complex series of flashes, ripples, and pulses. These are not simple signals for danger or food. Our instruments record cascading patterns of light, intricate waves of information that propagate through the swarm at nearly the speed of thought. It is a distributed consciousness, a brain made of a million tiny, flashing neurons, all contributing to a single unified awareness. Inevitably, the two new powers of this ocean must meet. Our drones are there when the crustacean hunter, the solitary monster, encounters the swarm for the first time. It perceives a dense, impossibly rich cloud of prey, an easy meal. Its predatory logic kicks in, and it moves to attack, its specialized limbs ready to slice and harvest. It approaches with the confidence of an apex predator that has never known a rival, moving in to claim its prize. But the swarm does not scatter. It waits. The moment the hunter strikes, the swarm responds. not with teeth or claws, but with information. A billion lights begin to flash in a chaotic, blinding strobe. It's a sensory assault, a storm of light designed to overwhelm. The hunter's hypersensitive antennae, its greatest asset for tracking prey, are flooded with ghost signals and contradictory data. It is blinded, disoriented, and confused, trapped in a psychedelic nightmare. The swarm envelopes it, not as a collection of targets, but as a single, suffocating wall of light and confusion. Once the hunter is neutralized, its mind shattered by sensory overload, the swarm begins its true attack. The tiny creatures, each one insignificant, move in as one. They clog its gills, preventing it from breathing. They crawl into the delicate joints of its armor, their tiny mouths methodically chewing at the soft tissues within. The monster is not killed by a single blow, but is consumed alive by a million tiny cuts. It is a slow, methodical, and horrifying execution, a titan brought down by a wave of biological data. A new kind of power has asserted its dominance in the deep. The era of the lone, specialized hunter is over, defeated by the distributed intelligence of the collective. The arms race has taken a chilling turn, moving from a battle of bodies to a battle of minds. This victory proves that the strongest individual is no match for a truly unified group. And it leaves us with a deeply unsettling thought. A mind born from the union of millions, forged in the crucible of pure survival, has just become the most powerful thing in the ocean. What will it want next? The evolutionary arms race has escalated into a brutal stalemate. In one corner, the swarm, a distributed consciousness, a victory of the many. In the other, the hunter, a pinnacle of solitary physical perfection. It is a war fought with light and chitin, a cycle of consumption and defense that defines this new ocean. But is this the only way? Is the ultimate expression of life just a more efficient method of killing or a more perfect way of hiding? Evolution has other paths, quieter paths, that lead to a very different kind of power. Our robotic eyes in the deep begin to find things that don't belong. Out on the vast, silted plains of the abyss, we discover patterns. These aren't the random tracks of a creature or the gentle ripples of a current. These are immense, geometrically perfect structures etched into the seafloor. We see massive, spiraling mandalas hundreds of meters across, intricate lattices of nested hexagons, and delicate, fractal patterns that look more like mathematics than biology. They are hauntingly beautiful, utterly silent, and serve no discernible purpose. They are monuments without a civilization. The mystery deepens with every new discovery. Who is creating these things? And more importantly, why? They offer no shelter, they don't appear to be traps, and they aren't farming structures. They seem to be art. This implies the existence of a mind with leisure time, a mind not wholly consumed by the frantic struggle for survival. It suggests an intelligence that can perceive beauty, or at least order, and has the impulse to create it. We see the handiwork, the impossible signature on the canvas of the abyss, but we never, ever see the artist. But this intelligence is not just an artist. It is also a farmer. In sheltered undersea canyons, we find the next clue: the gardens. These are carefully tended fields of bioluminescent fungi, arranged in neat, deliberate rows. Different species of fungi, which produce light in different colors, are segregated into distinct patches. This is agriculture. It requires foresight, patience, and a sophisticated understanding of botany in a world without sun. It means a creature is cultivating its own light source, its own food, or perhaps its own pigments for a purpose we can't yet imagine. And then we find the most chilling evidence of all. We find the corpses of the crustacean hunters. These apex predators, who we believed were invincible to anything but the swarm, are found dead, often perfectly preserved. They haven't been dismembered or consumed by a collective. They have been caught. We analyze the scenes and realize they are victims of intricate, custom-built traps. A lure, made from a particularly bright species of cultivated fungus, is placed to attract the hunter. When it moves to investigate, it triggers a mechanism, a net of incredibly strong, spun fibers that ensnares it, holding it fast until it starves. This isn't just intelligence. This is cunning. An artist, a farmer, and a trapper. Who is this solitary genius of the abyss? The evidence points to a descendant of one of the old world's cleverest survivors, the cephalopods. Somewhere in the crushing dark, a lineage of deep-sea octopus or cuttlefish endured the apocalypse. Their soft bodies, mastery of camouflage, and problem-solving minds were the perfect toolkit for survival. While others evolved brawn and brute force, this lineage honed its greatest weapon, its mind. We have only caught fleeting glimpses of the creature itself, shadowy forms that melt back into the darkness the moment our lights touch them. But we have seen its language. It doesn't communicate with simple flashes like the swarm. Instead, its skin is a living canvas. We record breathtaking, silent displays of cascading colors and shifting patterns that flow across its body. These are not just camouflage. The complexity, the syntax is too great. It is a visual language of such depth and alien structure that it defies all our attempts at decryption. It is the silent speech of a truly alien mind. So a new power has emerged in the ocean. It is not the physical might of the hunter or the collective strength of the swarm. It is the quiet, individual power of a supreme intellect. This creature doesn't need armor when it can build a trap. It doesn't need to be part of a hive mind when it can outthink its enemies on its own. It survives and thrives not by being the strongest, but by being the smartest. The evolutionary arms race has entered its final, most terrifying phase, the battle for cognitive supremacy. For millions of years, the new ocean has been a crucible, a world reborn from ash, forged in darkness, and now home to a spectacular and terrifying array of new life. We have witnessed the rise of the efficient hunter, the birth of the collective mind, and the dawn of a solitary alien intellect. These new gods of the deep have carved out their kingdoms, each a pinnacle of a different evolutionary strategy. The ocean, it seems, is full again, but the new inhabitants are starting to notice that they are not, and have never been, alone. The first signs are subtle, registered only by the most sensitive of these new life forms. The swarm, that vast superorganism, begins to behave erratically. It's beautiful. Flowing light shows become chaotic and fractured, its movements jerky and panicked. Far away, in the deepest trenches, the great works of the cephalopod artist change. The calm, geometric mandalas are replaced by frantic, jagged lines, a visual scream of terror etched into the seabed. These new minds, the most advanced on the planet, are sensing something fundamentally wrong with their world. And then we hear it again. The sound from the very beginning of our story. The slow, rhythmic pulse from the bottom of the Mariana Trench. But it is no longer faint. It is a deep, resonant thunder that our hydrophones now pick up from across the globe. It is a planetary heartbeat, growing louder and more insistent with every cycle. The seafloor itself begins to tremble in time with the beat, not with the sharp shudder of an earthquake, but with a slow, rolling vibration, as if the very bones of the earth are stirring in their sleep. Our automated systems work furiously, cross-referencing the seismic data with the acoustic signals. They triangulate the source of the disturbance with chilling precision. It originates from a colossal feature on the floor of the Pacific, a vast plateau the size of a continent that has always been dismissed as a dormant volcanic province. But the tremors are not tectonic. They emanate from the center of this formation, and they are becoming stronger, shaking the very foundations of the ocean. The truth hits with the force of a physical blow. That formation isn't a mountain range. The seismic activity isn't geological. That rhythmic, planetary thump is not a metaphor. For eons, we have been charting a landmass, when we should have been charting a life form. We have been telling a story about the rebirth of life on a planet we thought was empty, when in fact we've been telling a story about microbes crawling on the skin of a sleeping god. This being, a creature so vast its slumber was mistaken for geology, predates our entire understanding of biology. It was here before the dinosaurs, before the fish, perhaps before the first complex cells. The cataclysm that wiped out 99% of life on the planet was, to this entity, nothing more than a passing fever. It entered a state of hibernation to wait out the storm, and it has been sleeping for hundreds of millions of years, a silent, living continent at the bottom of the world. The entire story we have witnessed, the rise of the extremophiles, the birth of the drifting nets, the arms race between hunters and swarms and alien intellects, has all played out on its dormant flesh. They are, to this creature, less than bacteria. Their wars are a momentary itch. Their evolution a flicker of microscopic activity. Our entire epic of extinction and rebirth has simply been the background noise that is finally, after an eon of silence, starting to wake it up. A great chasm cracks open across the face of the plateau, venting clouds of silt and sediment that have lain undisturbed for ages. The water darkens as a billion years of slumber are cast off. From within that crack, something immense shifts. It is not rock. It is flesh and keratin and biological structures on a scale we have no words for. And from the darkness, a lid, miles wide, begins to peel back, revealing an eye the size of a country, its pupil a void that contracts as it beholds the new, noisy world that has grown upon it. The ultimate horror is one of scale. We thought we were watching the dawn of a new age of life, a triumphant return from the brink of oblivion. But we were wrong. We were only watching the alarm clock. Life has indeed returned to the oceans, filling the darkness with its light and fury and intelligence. But we are left with one final, terrifying question. Did it ever truly own them?